Everybody wants to talk about great marketing and great distribution and all these other things that come along with building great businesses. It all comes down to the product. Marketing may get you a bump, PR may get you a bump, distribution may get a product to someone's doorstep, but if that product is not right, it will never go to that same doorstep, or you'll never get that customer that you acquired via that Facebook advertising ever again. Business is all about product, and if the product is right, you can solve for everything else.
Hello and welcome to a Life of Climb podcast. I'm your host, Sam Reese, CEO of Vistage, the world's largest CEO, coaching, and peer advisory organization for small, mid-sized businesses. Today's episode is going to be a fun one because we're talking with Ryan Hogan, who is the CEO of Hunt a Killer, an immersive game company that has exploded in the past few years.
Her name was Viola Vane.
First blow was to her wrist, second and fatal blow was to her head. Say she was trying to defend herself.
Don't you just love a good whodunit?
Ryan will take us through an amazing journey that started with a failed zombie race idea and eventually landed him on the Inc. list of the fastest growing companies, thanks to his unique approach to using storytelling to create products. Along the way, he learned some great lessons about what it takes to scale and manage a company through rapid growth. Also with Ryan is Vistage Chair Tomasevic, who I spoke to about the power of learning and growing from failure, plus the often overlooked superpower of great CEOs. That superpower being listening. Thanks, and here's Thomas and Ryan.
Hello everyone, my name is Tomasevic. I am a Seattle chair. I am the chair of the group in which Ryan Hogan, our guest for today, is participating in. I'm happy to introduce Ryan. Ryan is the CEO of Hunt a Killer, one of the fastest growing companies in our group, and certainly broader than that. Hi, Ryan. Thank you for joining us.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, Thomas.
Tell me, how did all of this business start? Going back to Baltimore, going back to your naval background, were you always an inventor? Were you always an entrepreneur? Tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, sure. Probably all my life. Thinking back to third grade, selling creepy crawlers in Mrs. Price's class, to shoveling snow and cutting grass through middle school and high school. Always very much an entrepreneur, or just trying to figure out what is this unique thing that exists where you can make it for yourself. You know, I certainly had the McDonald's jobs and Burger King. I think I was at Burger King for a couple of years, but there was just always something very special and unique to the feeling and the freedom that comes with entrepreneurship. And that's really been kind of the genesis of all of this. But you're right. I am a new Seattle transplant, certainly still getting my Seattle legs and building a network out here. And that's really because I spent the last 19 years in the United States Navy. And 15 of those years were active duty. I actually transitioned out of active duty in 2017, and I was stationed in San Diego, California. And if we rewind about a year before that transition, my partner and I, Derek, we started Hunt a Killer. Mm-hmm. And Hunt a Killer was a live event. Basically, we transformed a 200-acre campground into a living crime scene. We brought a whole bunch of people down. There was actors and stage bodies and just a whole bunch of great immersive storytelling where people can become characters inside of the universes that we created. But unfortunately, the concept just didn't scale.
So at that time, was it an intention to create a company, or was it just an idea about having an event? What was the genesis of Hunt a Killer?
Take over the world. Well, that's not the genesis of Hunt a Killer, but that's always kind of been the genesis or motto of me. It's just, how many people can we impact with just amazing experiences and distorting reality and giving people a break from reality? I mean, there's just something fascinating and unique about that. So, the game plan was always to build a company. And this was actually our second company, Derek and I's second company together. Like I said, I've had many ideas and different things that I've done, but only two have really gotten traction. And the first one was with Derek, my co-founder as well. It was called Run for Your Lives. And it was the first ever zombie-infested 5K obstacle course race. And we grew that. We scaled it $0 to $8 million over a couple years, and then ultimately paid the price of not keeping track of your books and not hiring the right folks.
There you go.
And all these great things that Vistage just taught me. But that was really the genesis.
So let's stay a little bit with that original business, the zombie business. Clearly something that is, excitement, adventure, energy-based, something that definitely represents you as I know you. Tell me, those days, so basically there was your need to create new stuff. Your entrepreneur in you was emerging. You had a drive to get things done, and 0 to 8 million is not a small success. That actually is noticeable and relevant. Tell me, what are the things that you learned during that experience?
A lot. And all the lessons came from all the failures. First and foremost, especially with Run for Your Lives, the first thing we did was hire all of our friends. And that's cool because you're never going to get people that are more committed to the vision and what you're trying to accomplish than those that are closest to you. The problem is that once an organization begins to scale, there is a whole new need for different types of skill sets, different types of experiences, different types of leadership and management that you really need to solve before it's too late. Because it becomes too late once you've already baked in or made the wrong decisions, because you didn't have that bench strength. And what's been incredible throughout the journey of Hunt a Killer has been, it is a never-ending transition. Like I can look at the company from 0 to 5, 5 to 10, 10 to probably 25 million, 25 million to 50 million, and now 50 million to 100 million. And that's 7, 8 different phases of a normal growth company that we're doing over 18 to 24 months. And the problem is there's a very specific skill set or experience that is needed for each one of those inflection points. And so that was probably the biggest takeaway.
Typically, what we consider that is to be the relationship obstacle. In other words, you create relationship before they vet themselves as relevant members of your team. So would you hire friends for company today as it is?
Less so than the beginning. I mean, Derek is an anomaly out of all of this. Derek is my co-founder. He's currently VP of development at Hunt a Killer. So he's working on all the new stories and new ideas. But Derek's an anomaly because it's kind of like he's got the product and I've got the marketing, and it's just kind of yin and yang.
Love it.
But early days of Hunt a Killer, we really weren't looking at that. And the reason for that is it busts a lot of relationships. And I get pinged on Facebook and LinkedIn and phone calls and texts of hey, my cousin, my uncle, my these people that are talking about other folks that may want a job. The problem is that can complicate relationships, and that was a hard lesson.
And your success. Absolutely. So that is something I often see in startups, is that lots of depends on relationships, because you're expecting a lot and friends are willing to jump in at least for a short period of time. But at some point, you don't need them as they are. You need people as you need for your functions. Company grows, and then relationships become a liability to an extent. So one of the things that you mentioned is that, there were many things you didn't do or control, and that caught up with you, probably some financial decisions or financial tracking or something like that. And I see that a lot in people who are entrepreneurial, because they are by nature very optimistic. Yep. And optimistic and trusting come hand in hand. The end result is not necessarily controlling every single lever that you need to do. So what happened there, and how did it affect you?
Yeah, it's so relevant because our new chief business and operations officer, we had a one-on-one this week, and she was like, it's okay to be optimistic, but sometimes we got to be careful drinking our own Kool-Aid. I thought that was a really interesting point. And that goes back to Run for Your Lives. There was nobody there reining in my optimism. And let's take this from one event to 13 events to 26 events. We probably should have went from one event to 3 events, 3 events
Understood.
to 5 events.
Yeah.
And we could have controlled cash, but yeah, we were very optimistic.
So let's circle back to Hunt a Killer. So you mentioned a big event that was very experiential. You admitted it wasn't scalable. Was that the first thing that started forming the story of Hunt a Killer?
It was. So, the difference between the Hunt a Killer event and Run for Your Lives is, Run for Your Lives, we could go and put 15,000 people through an obstacle course race in 2 days. We could net food, beverage, tickets, spectators, $1.5 million, $1.7 million on a really good event. Well, then we've got Hunt a Killer, and we had to cap it at 600 people, because in order to distort reality, we couldn't have 1,000 people standing around a crime scene trying to investigate it or interviewing suspects. And so to keep the intimacy and break reality, it needed to be smaller. So when we got done with the event, there was like $5,000 left over in the bank account. And Derek and I were like, gosh, this was an entire year of work. And now we get $2,500 each. Like that's not a business. This is a hobby. But we wanted a business. And so we knew that like, listen, we've got product market fit. There were people, even outside of people that came, that wanted to come to this experience. And folks are always looking for immersing themselves inside of a story, or to be entertained, or to break reality. And people are looking for connection and community. And Derek and I looked at that and said, well, it doesn't have to be an event. This could be a physical product that we distribute. And we could create that community-like vibe with Facebook groups. And that was really the genesis of the first iteration.
Why is it so cold down here?
This is creepy.
It is creepy. We are going to solve it.
Oh, here we go. Okay.
I think I know what happened.
I feel like we're real investigators.
I know, me too.
Love it. So, and this is a very, I think, critical moment for you also as a very experiential connecting person, to be open enough to change your vision from being hands-on and, enjoying the sweat and enjoyment that excited people around you are going to get in your events, to turn it into something that frankly removes that personal connection in real time, but adds scalability to a huge extent.
Yeah, so we still have our community on Facebook, and we've got 140,000 people in the secret Facebook group that are doing everything from sharing their cat photos to dressing their dogs up like detectives. It's amazing. And it's amazing to watch everybody talk about this and share it. But yeah, right now we're still there. We're trying to build our own platform, and I think we're a few months out. The first transition for us was obviously from live events to subscription box business model. And that was, to us, the same value proposition, just changing the distribution in which we can connect with our audience. From there, what we really started to look at were things like Harry's Razors and
subscription services for target audience.
Right. And the ones that were successful were doing this in retail environments. And so we started to look at this, and we started to look at the Birch boxes and the Loot Crates, and started to say, like, hey, customer acquisition cost and trying to scale a subscription business with consumer product goods types of churn. This isn't a SaaS business, so we're not churning at less than 1% or less than 2% each month. It becomes unsustainable. Every company that is a quote unquote subscription box company will ultimately fail if that is their only distribution method. And so we started to look at this and say, like, well, how do we get into the Targets and the Walmarts? And it really started to open up our minds to, we needed more products. Like, if we're going to grow this into $1 billion company, we can't do it with a single subscription product. Like, there needs to be more products, and we need to open up the market target a little bit. And so we did two things. The first is we started developing one-time experiences, and these are at a higher price point. So if you look at our subscription as a Netflix series, because it's episodic, there's 6 episodes with each season, you can look at our premium experiences as one time, like a full feature length movie. And we started to get pretty good at selling these. And we said, well, maybe there's a way we can take this thing and create kind of this hunt-a-killer box zero, which is an on-ramp. So if you go to Target and you look at the Harry's Razors, you can get your razor, your first pack from Target, and then you join the subscription, they'll keep sending you blades. And so our whole concept was like, well, what if we developed a product like that was an on-ramp to the subscription and to the direct-to-consumer side? And so that's really what we've been focused on. And we got picked up by Target, we got picked up by Amazon, we're working with Kohl's and some other retailers, but we've got a retail extension that currently sits on the shelves, which we're really excited about.
What were the good things that made you successful as you are today?
I would say the iteration of the product. So everybody wants to talk about great marketing and great distribution and all of these other things that come along with building great businesses. It all comes down to the product. Marketing may get you a bump. PR may get you a bump. Distribution may get a product to someone's doorstep. But if that product is not right, it will never go to that same doorstep, or you'll never get that customer that you acquired via that Facebook advertising ever again. Business is all about product. And if the product is right, you can solve for everything else. But the one misconception is that like the product is never right, ever. Like we are in a constant flux of iteration. And so we have a feedback loop. And one of the things that I'm probably most proud of at Hunt a Killer is the feedback loop that we created since day one. You know, I could make jokes about that we kind of stumbled into creating the community on Facebook. And we stumbled into that because I wanted to get all of the early adopters of the experience in a group to ask them, what sucks about this experience? What do you not like about this experience? And we've been doing that since day one. We listen. After we listen, we make the adjustments. And just the constant iteration and improvement in product. You know, if I sent you our first product, season 1, episode 1, you would be like, what the heck is this? And it's because we continue to improve.
Ryan, so success is best demonstrated when it's documented. And you were up there somewhere in the Inc. 5000 rating. Can you tell me more about what the number was?
Yeah, we were actually number 6 on the Inc.'s fastest growing company list last year. And we were also number 1 in consumer product goods.
So what is in the near future and then in the long-term future with Hunt a Killer? Are you become number 1 growing, or do you want to slow down the growth and have a sustainability? How are you going to get to $1 billion that you mentioned before?
Yeah, it's interesting. Growth is fun. I mean, growth is like exciting and it's energizing, and like your energy brings other people, great talent on board. And when you start to deviate from that, you could lose some great folks. But I think we are going to slow down just a bit. We were, for the first time ever, profitable last year. And that's exciting. We have run this company in a loss since day one. And last year we were profitable. And it was like, well, that didn't take much more effort or energy just to like take a step back or not spend as much money over here. I think we're going to continue that trend. So it's still ambitious what we're doing. So over the next 3 years, we want to get to 250 million. So this year, heading towards that 100 million mark, 3 years, 250. So like those are still very ambitious, not as ambitious as the $1 billion in 5 years. But I don't think we have to be $1 billion in 5 years. I think we can do really good. We can make a profit, which is, I think, why companies exist, or so people tell me. And and we can have a lot of fun doing it.
So Ryan, lots of success, lots of roads that got you here. Can you give us top 3 that have resulted in your success?
The first is hire great people. Hire folks that have the experience that you need for the stage and the size company that you are and that you aspire to be. Number 2 would be build a great product. And it's not just about the product that you developed or your version 1. It is the iteration cycles that you continue to improve the product or the experience service that you're creating. And number 3 is build a great culture. All of this is meaningless if people are walking around with frowns and not happy at work. And so being able to really understand who you are as a company, what it is that you do that's best in the world, the value proposition that you deliver, and what do you stand for, and really articulating that through the values that you create.
This is all just excellent bookcase example of how things are done. Ryan, I want to thank you for today. I think this was a remarkable time for us to spend together in front of camera and microphones. I hope that other people will benefit from you. I certainly have. Thank you very much, Ryan.
Awesome. Thanks, Thomas.
This episode of A Life of Climb podcast is brought to you by Vistage, the world's largest executive coaching and peer advisory organization. As a CEO or owner of a small or mid-sized business, you've got the weight of the world on you. But what if you didn't have to go it alone? What if you could journey with an experienced guide and an elite team of peers who've got your back? With that kind of support, how high could you climb? Vistage has been helping leaders reach new heights for more than 60 years. It's a proven, time-honored approach that can help you too. Learn more about Vistage and discover more leadership resources at Vistage.com. And now, back to our episode.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back. I'm sitting here with Thomas talking about To Hunt a Killer and their CEO, Ryan Hogan. It was really interesting to me how Ryan was really open about the failure he experienced early on with that zombie racing business here. And I just wondered, from your point of view, why you think those setbacks ultimately helped prepare him for future success.
multiple reasons. First of all, Ryan is a unique person that has the strength of character to learn from his mistakes. More likely explanation, if you will, if you want to generalize it, is that all of us learn best from our mistakes. And it is our character that shows how do we handle those mistakes. And Ryan, being the person that he is, and I have greatest respect and liking for him, he learns and he brushes off the dust and learns that he shouldn't do the same mistake again. And that is where his greatness comes from, I think.
Yeah, I've run into many that say, I was going to be an entrepreneur, but I had this big setback and they're done forever. What's the difference when you said strength of character? Tell me more about what you think about when you talk about that difference.
Got it. I have my own explanation, which may be right or wrong, but in my opinion, it is essentially how much do you believe in the world that what feels good is good. So in other words, it is a psychological state of fact that some people would say that only the things that feel good are good, and I'm going to live by those things. And essentially that defines the personality type that is going to be discouraged by failure, because failure doesn't feel good. And then the rest of the people that I think get strengthened by the failures are the ones that believe that everything happens for a reason, and the reason is learning. So when they are facing something that is not pleasant, they say, okay, let me see why it's unpleasant and what do I need to do about it next time.
He said something in the interview with you where he talks about being passive. Is that true? He says, I'm not really aggressive. Is that more him being humble, or how would you describe his personality when it comes to defining himself as passive, versus really aggressive?
There is no lie in his statement. I think he perceives himself as passive, and I would say that he's not pushy. He's non-aggressive type, but it doesn't mean that he's not extremely determined and extremely durable as a personality type. So in other words, he may not insist on his opinion, but he's going to hold on to it and ask other people for their opinions in a non-threatening way. He really doesn't start from the perspective of I'm right. He starts from the perspective I'm curious.
One of the struggles he had, when you listen to him, first of all, even when he has struggles, he never talks about quitting. It's like this is what he's going to do here. But I think many people probably, when they listen to the story, they think one of the struggles is that he had too much customer demand at the start. And, while it seems like a good problem, it can actually cripple a business. You talked about this term of being an idea maker. You said the difference between being an idea maker and actually running the business. Explain that difference, why it matters, and how it connects with really this demand issue and challenge that he had.
Oh, that's a good one. So thank you for asking that, Sam. So idea makers, essentially people who are visionaries, would take pride in being idea makers. Right. And so what does that mean? That means that they're driven by creating opportunity or responding to the environment in a positive manner and turning whatever lemons we are served into lemonade. So and that's a positive trait in general. Where I think Ryan goes a step further is he is an idea maker and he gets excited about an opportunity to make lemonade from lemons, but he seems to keep a strong touch with what is possible and what is real as well. So his enthusiasm will take the best of him, but he will learn that is a potential weakness that he needs to deal with, and he did.
He said he needed somebody to counter his enthusiasm. Is that how he explains maybe the difference between what he learned in his first venture versus the success he's having now? Is he's got this realist who can tell him the way things really are?
I think so. I think basically that, he's aware of his blind spots, and instead of avoiding them, I think what he's doing is he's basically creating compatibility with other people who bring in the benefit that he needs. Because I think when it comes down to it, Ryan is committed to his success. Not necessarily to him being right, not necessarily to him being egoistical in a certain way or being self-expressed to a high degree. He wants to be successful. And therefore, when he recognizes that he's a little bit too much in some area, he seeks help.
When you talk about leaders and you think about this challenge of managing explosive growth at the same time, how does he and how do you counsel leaders to make sure that they keep their life in check while they're experiencing this explosive growth? There was a point, as you two talked back and forth, where he kind of says, I got to watch my health too. How do you talk to leaders about that so this doesn't get off balance?
It's unfortunately a very common topic, and it's a common topic that many of us have experienced firsthand. Essentially, and that is where we realize that our will is stronger than our body. And so, we are ready to commit to things that frankly are physically impossible, and the end result is that something breaks, and typically it is us. So with Ryan has, first of all, he is young, and he is more cognizant than most people of his age, I would say, in respect of the experiences. Nevertheless, it doesn't really slow him down from really operating at the edge of his capability, which is a pretty high and remarkable.
Has there been personal experience in your professional career that you had to overcome with that, the will being stronger than the body? I love that. It seems like you talk about that with such passion. You've had to experience that yourself?
I'm an entrepreneur myself. So the company we mentioned, the one I started some 20 odd years ago, startups, you tend to wear many hats. You need to be in 10 places in the same time. And my experience was that during this explosive growth, I was at some point, I was in charge of engineering, marketing, and sales. And that essentially was a rhythm that was hyper exciting. It was very enlivening. It was great in so many ways. And I ended up, being hard to diagnose what was wrong with me at some point when the system started failing down. And essentially what it was a combination of unhealthy lifestyle and too much stress that essentially just assume that your level of energy is constant and there forever. And at some point your body says, no, I'm not.
That's hard for us as leaders and entrepreneurs to believe that, though, right? Do you draw on your personal experiences a lot when you think about how you help some of these leaders that you're mentoring right now? Is that something you're constantly thinking about?
I do, Sam, but you do know that having an opportunity to work with high performing executives, I get more coaching than all of them combined. I benefit from their experiences as well. But yes, unfortunately, in this case, I certainly have plenty of my own experiences to learn that, there is a limit to everybody's ability, no matter how powerful you may be in your own mind. There are limits that physics and physiology bring with them.
I think there's strength in understanding that too. I like how you talk about it, that energy oscillates. I think it's a great way to think about it. When, entrepreneurs often create the business, but then when it comes to scaling, they almost always, I'd say the majority, move on because they can't scale it. How has Ryan made this transition? And it was interesting to just hear him say, the ways he talks about different phases, but like, now I've got to get to the next one. What is unique about the way he's approaching it versus the way other entrepreneurs may typically struggle?
And it's still a puzzlement in my mind because he seems to be operating equally well at this single event category as well as a running company that is essentially a moving machine, so to speak. And he's doing that remotely in most of the cases with multiple conflicting objectives. I think where his strength is that he is learning to let go of the things that other people can do better than him. I think that is a unique insight that frankly does not come logically because you know what the idea is, you know what you need to do to execute it. It is easier to do it than to explain it. But essentially, sooner or later, you become a person who is in your own way. And somewhere along the way, Ryan has learned that lesson and lived it.
So self-awareness, when you think about that trait, how does that connect to success for leaders? Why do you think that's such an important characteristic?
When it comes down to his unique capability, I think that he has learned to listen. And listening to other people allows him to see reality from different perspectives. And that is, I think, one of the ways of his self-awareness. And also the level of humility to accept that his ideas are one-sided. They may be brilliant, they may be great, but three heads together are more than one head, and he lives by that rule without, thinking that his head is the biggest. So there is a humble aspect to that I celebrate him for, and I think his self-awareness comes from the fact that he listens.
As you look into the future and his success moving forward and his company's success, What gives you the most confidence that they're going to continue, Ryan's going to continue to thrive, his company's going to continue to thrive?
Probably the fact that Ryan has never been alone. He has always found a way to surround himself with people that he can benefit from, that wish him well, that respect him. And he keeps living down that line. So I think every new challenge that he meets, he creates an environment that is going to support him to find a solution every step of the way.
Well, Thomas, thanks so much for your insights, and thanks so much for sharing Ryan's story. What a success. And listening to the relationship you two have formed and listening to the future ahead of the plans that Ryan and team have, I think this is going to be a really exciting adventure to hear for their success in the future. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you for having me here.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us, and thanks again to Ryan and Thomas.